concepts that you need to pay attention to when first establishing your base. You will obviously need the fabricator, the base fabricator tool. Pulling the right trigger will bring up the list of modules. The right and left bumpers back and forth across the top for the different categories of items to build. All of your base modules are in this first one. Exterior structures, in other words, things that go outside the base, are here. Interior structures here, and then various placeable items in here, and then your decorations and accessories, chairs, tables, beds, things like that are in the last tab here. So what I want to talk about is establishing the base to start with. So downstairs. Right trigger brings up our construction list. I'm using the D-pad to navigate. And I wanted to discuss base integrity initially here, because a lot of people tend to overlook it because there is no visible reference for a base's integrity except when you actually place a structure for the first time. And the only time it appears, it will appear in the upper left corner of your screen and give you an indication of overall structure currently on the base. Now, every structure that you add, with the exception of two things in this tab, lower that integrity rating. So adding every piece here lowers the base structure integrity. The foundation and the reinforcement add to the base integrity. Let's grab lithium so I can show you what side we build a base to start with here. Alright, let me get that other scrap. Process that real quick here. Side. You do not have to place a foundation when starting a base. It's advisable to do so, but you do not have to. Now, when you're near an existing base, things will snap. As you can see, it's snapping to this existing base. Even though I'm rotating, it's staying aligned to these base pieces. So I'm going to have to get a little bit away from it. Let's start a new base here. And I'm pressing A to select that. And see, now it's orienting with me as I turn in the world. Now if I'm too high above the seafloor, it will turn red, or if there's something blocking the way, in this case me, it will turn red and not allow you to place that structure. Now once you have selected a place to begin your base, when you place the first piece, the very first piece, the rest of the base will align to that piece. Whatever way it is facing, the rest of the base will align left, right, up, down to that initial piece. And so it's very critical that you pay attention to things sticking up, like these tubes over here, or this ridge here that would get in the way of adding to the base later. So if I placed this tube here, it's almost impossible to build over here this direction because this ridge would be in the way and everything would be locked to this initial piece as far as altitude and rotation. So you need to choose wisely when placing that first piece. So we're going to throw down this first piece. I'm pulling the left trigger and holding it. Now you see at the top corner it's at -1, total now 10 or 9. So when you start a new base, you have an initial 10 points of structure to work with. And every piece that you add from then on reduces that structure. This will take us down to 8. See up in that upper left corner, it's now down to 8. When you remove pieces, it will raise the structure back up again. Now, as I said, the platform adds to the structure, and it doesn't matter where you put it, as long as it's snapped to this initial piece, it's considered part of the base. Now, if we place it over here, it's not considered part of that base. It's free floating. If it's snapping to some piece of your base like this, it will be considered part of the base. So if we build that, you can see it raised by 2 points our integrity of the base. The other component, I'm using a down D-pad to deconstruct here, by the way. The other component that adds to structure is this reinforcement. And unfortunately, you won't have lithium at the beginning of the game. You'll have to get that later. And it goes on these patches on the side of the tubes and also the buildings. And when you add those, it adds 7 to the base structure. So now we're up to 16. So it's very valuable to collect that lithium when you can, because it adds the most value to your base structure of any component. The other interior piece that adds, I should go get some silicone rubber. Let's go get grab one of these guys here. Didn't see it go in my inventory.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Let's process that into rubber. Need that inside. Okay, this is the only other piece that adds to the structure of a base. And unfortunately, you will not have this. Boy, I forgot we were building. Boy. Oh boy. I so totally forgot where we parked. Seriously, really? I swear we put it over here. I swear we put it over here. Ay, Chihuahua. Oh well. I'll find it later. It's nighttime, so it's really hard to see. I swear I parked it right over here. Can you tell I get lost a lot in this game? Yeah, it's great. I only had one piece built anyway. Oh, there it is. Ha ha! Found it. Good Okay, let's build another tube on here. Another tube here. And we need a way to get in, and it's not going to have air, because I'm not going to fool with power. This is just a demo. Okay, let's take this panel off. Materials. So we're now down to 7. Once you find
oxygen production
a
offline.
certain place in the game, you will find a way to scan this door bulkhead, and I'm trying not to turn this into a spoiler. Once you scan that bulkhead, you will find it in here, and it will allow you to add bulkheads inside of your base. And this functions 2 things. So now it added 3 to our base, which is 1 more than the platform did outside. Let's go get some air. It's 1 more than the platform did outside. So if you don't have lead and you've already got this scanned for the cost of a single rubber and a couple of titanium, you can add 3 points of integrity to your base. And what it does is it also closes off part of your base, and yes, you can leave the door open. Let's see if it will. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Let's see if it will. No, it's not going to. There are a couple times I accidentally hit my base, and it made it leak. Yeah, well. If you do get leaks, you can close the doors. So if this section here is flooding, you can close the door like so, and seal that off until you get a chance to repair it and deal with it, leaving you the rest of your base unflooded, or leaving the door open, which I normally do. I only close it in emergencies. Still get through it, no problem, but it adds 3 structure to your base. So let's get our repair tool again. And let's deconstruct this. Materials. Inside. Good. Daylight. Awesome. Let's rip this apart. Now, there is no right way to build a base. Okay? There are so many different ways to start a base. There are so many different layouts, and it just depends on your play style and how you like to work with things within the base. I'm going to show you how I have learned to work bases. You know what? Before I show you this, let me show you. Okay, this was my first. This game is my first game that I progressed to end game. I can leave the planet anytime I want to. Right now, I'm trying not to spoiler it and trying not to show it to you. But I can leave the planet at any time. I'm ready to go. But I keep using this the save as a way to do these streams, because it's got basically everything. So this was my first base, and it is an absolute chaotic hell. It is so unorganized, absolutely horrible. Initially, I didn't have this big room. It started out a couple of pieces here, and it was a pain in the butt because I had started the initial base with a couple of tubes here. I think it was a couple of T-tubes connected here with a portal on it. And I had built storage in there, and I had built a fabricator in there, and then And when I got this room unlocked by scanning a certain room in a certain place, again, spoiler, caution, I had to take everything out of the chests that I had put in that starter base, move it to another section of the base, put the stuff in it, or build new storage, put the stuff in it, so I could completely empty that old section and take it apart so I could build this new room. Well, it's getting thirsty, so let's go ahead and grab a bite to eat here. Fill up the bars. Plant the seeds real quick. There. Okay, topped everything off. Good. So it was a pain in the butt to relocate all of this stuff so that I could rebuild using this large room after I had unlocked it. And as such, you know, the base is a bunch of windy, twisty corridors that interlink, and it's, even though I built it, I get lost in here sometimes because it's not a clean layout to start with. It was built as I got materials, as I expanded, as I added things. Another issue was, I found out later, after I built this giant Cyclops, the entry point is way the heck down here. It's a ginormous sub. It so does not fit anywhere near up in here or off that direction. I didn't initially have a porthole on the side hatch, to enter and exit, so it was just simply uncomfortable to get in and out of this big beast anywhere near this base. And as you can see, nothing lines up. Everything's all zigzaggy. Not a good way to go. Later bases in this game, in other locations, I learned from my mistake, and hopefully I'll share some of those mistakes and what I learned from it with you here, and maybe help you prevent making the same mistake. So the first thing that we need to know is this large room is going to be probably your go-to room once you acquire it by scanning a certain place. So that's on this first tab. Initially you will not have the multi-purpose room, so you can't build it. But later you will. So it's a good idea to plan ahead, knowing that you will get it, and build accordingly. So if we consider this would be the main entrance of the base, as we can see here, this would be your main entrance, and you'd have a platform out here, and with your growing crops and stuff out here at a later time. And you'd want to build this first room, like I did over there, and in that first room, you typically want to put your storage, you typically want to put your fabricator, your first aid station, radio, etc. Of course, this does not have power,
Warning, emergency power only.
so that this would be
Oxygen
where you put your fabricator
offline.
and your initial storage, so you come right in from outside, boom, here's all your stuff. Well, if you build here, you have to move all your stuff back in a new section of the base, build this, and then move it all back in here again. So what I suggest doing instead is planning ahead with where you want to build that building, and space your first construction, which would be this as your first base, and then build your storage in here, build your fabricator in here, and then later you can come back in here and build that main room here, and then you simply have to move the stuff from out here back here. Much easier, one trip, and it's way easier if you do a little bit of planning ahead of time. So knowing that, you need to know how big that building actually is. And as you can see, that building consumes 3 slots, 3 tubes. Deconstruct this. And here, I'll just tag it to get it started. So that's why these are blue, because I just got them started, but I actually didn't complete them. So you can see our hatch, if we were to put it here, would line up exactly right here where that hatch would initially be. So what you'd do is you'd start out by placing
Oxygen.
1, 2, 3 tubes first. Let's go get some air real quick here. Okay, so you place 3 tubes first before you actually build the base pieces you're for real going to keep. Let's deconstruct this one. Let's put our hatch back. So initially, again, minus that room, I tend to start with a series of the crosses like this. And as you can see, you've got plenty of space in here to build things. Because you're going to be adding on later, do not build right here along these walls right here, because it won't let you add on later if you do. So I would probably initially start off my fabricator right here, and then I'd throw a storage or 2 right here, and then you can add more storage on the sides here if you're okay with them sticking out. You can also decide to go with the large storage, which will only fit 1 in each one of these alcoves. However, you can put a couple of them right here in the hallway on each one of these walls here and not be encumbered too terribly. So you'd set it up like so. If you're going to build you could put that right here. If you're going to throw in a radio, which you easily can, you could throw it on the other wall over here. So you can make a very nice little space here out of all of this, and it really doesn't require a whole lot of mats to build these T's. I mean, come on, 3 titanium, really? I mean, that's 1 piece of scrap, and you got 1 left over. So it's not a big deal to build one of these T's to get started with. So what I would consider a minimum start to be able to begin your base, you're going to need to be able to build 1 T. You're going to need to be able to build 1 hatch, and that's enough to start a base. So basically, you need 3 titanium for this one, and you'll need a quartz and 2 titanium for the hatch. So that's 5 titanium and a piece of quartz, and then you will need power for it to provide oxygen. So you need 2 quartz for that and a copper. All these materials can be easily collected right here in the shallows without having to leave. 1 solar panel at a reasonable depth will be quite sufficient to supply oxygen for a small base like this. So that said, let's move on to how these things stack. As you can see here, I've set up another set, and you can stack pieces on top of each other. Any of the standard pieces, your straight, your T, or your cross will stack on top of each other. Corners do not. They don't connect. I mean, you can put one above, but it won't connect to the piece here. As you can see, it automatically creates a small connector tube here, and also here. Now, one thing people kind of get confused with initially is, okay, well, if they're connected, well, how do I get to them, right? So here, you see, there's nothing in here. I mean, that tube is not there, but you see this hatch right here? If you come over here to interior components and you select a ladder, and if you aim at the ceiling, like this, and then you can place a ladder, and that will get you to the next. Now we're one level up. To get to the next level up, again, another ladder. So now all three of these are connected. So you can have multiple levels here without a problem very easily. So let's take that one down. Take that one down. Take that one down. Side. Another piece that we can work with here vertically. I'll take this piece out for now. It's on this first tab, and it's this vertical connector. So we can splice this in instead, and you can see it snaps to the center of those parts again. Oops. So now we have a vertical tube here, and even though it's 3 stories tall, when you build a single ladder here, interior-wise, it will go all the way to the top. So as you can see, it went all the way through that tube, all the way to the 3rd story up, with one ladder, using the exact same components as a single ladder. Didn't cost you any more. Take that out. Deconstruct this. We can stack those vertical tubes on top of each other, as many as you would like. And they will build straight tube. On that. Okay, so now we can enter this top one. Again, just like before, if we fabricate a single ladder, and it's this single this black patch here in the middle of the room that you aim at. Build that, and notice it goes all the way down the tube. So with a single mouse click, boom, now we're at the bottom tube. So that's how you get multiple stories going.
Warning, emergency power only. Oxygen production offline.
You must be really cranky. Cover these materials again. As you can see, as I remove, oh, by the way, the vertical connector only reduces the integrity by 0.5 instead of 1 for these. The big hit for your structure is these glass components. I mean, everybody digs these. They look cool as heck. Unfortunately, they take 2 away from your base structure, unlike these pieces, which only take 1. So be aware and very, very focused when you start building a lot of glass, and by glass that includes windows, which also reduce structure. That you pay attention to that number in that top corner, and until you can acquire lithium for these patch panels, you're going to have to build foundations, or if you have it unlocked, the bulkhead, to raise the base structure to compensate for the glass you're using. Think about it. Glass is not a very strong material. Titanium is. So its ability to withstand outside pressures are far less, so therefore it lowers the structure substantially more than a standard titanium component does. The large room does lower it more than one of these pieces. I think it's 1.5 or 2, but I can't remember the actual number. Heck, you know what? Let's just build it here. Build one here. Let's just look at the number. So okay, 1.3. So not too bad, but consider it takes 3 components long. So these 3 components add up to 3 points coming off your integrity. This one building is only 1.3. So integrity-wise, it's better than building the 3 pieces there. Okay. Another little tip that I didn't know at first, nor did I think about, you can actually stack these guys if you get them stacked on top of each other like this, where it looks like it's kind of inset into it. That will make a second story on this building. Okay, so now we have a second story on there. And again, you're coming in here and say, well, where is my second story? Oh, yipes. Not paying attention. Up we go. It's not like I'm very deep, so I'm not really worried about oxygen too much here. There we go. Okay, so let's go inside. So again, the same applies here. We have to build a ladder to access that second story. And then in this case, there are 5 location points. If you look at these hatches on the ceiling, here, 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 and here, that's 4, and then 1 in the center, if you wish to build it there. I almost never build in the center, because there's quite frequently something I want to put there instead. We'll cover that later. So again, just like before, boom, and now we're in the upper floor. And you can stack one on top of this and another on top of this, just like the other pieces. Strip that out, cover the materials back again. Back outside. Deconstruct this. Now, not only can you build above, you can also add to below if it will fit. In this case, you can see it's snapping. However, it's too close. That hump right here of ground is blocking. However, we can add to this one. So you can see it turns green, even though the legs are there. Don't freak. Or remove the legs and move them down for you automatically. Boom, just like that, and it will rebuild new legs. Now when we go in, we're now in that back room again. And same as before, we throw down a ladder. This time going down, because remember we built going underneath this. Okay, and now we're in that lower compartment that we built. Okay. Deconstruct that. Now those reinforcement panels I was telling you about, that's what they look like, these two here. Because these two experimental bases were so close together, it considered them one base. So I actually lowered the structure so much that it actually started flooding the base, because it had so many parts here. And those reinforcement patches can go on each one of these panels on this room. However, you may want to consider not putting them on the cardinal direction walls of the building. And it's easy to tell what those are if you look at these little tabs right here on the roof from the outside. And I'll show you on the inside. You cannot build or attach tubes or anything in any way to the 45s here. You can put windows there, you can put hull patches there, you cannot attach tubes. At right angles. That's all you have to work with in this game. You cannot build at the 45s. So there's no way to attach a tube. And by the way, you can rotate components when you have them selected like this using the D-pad. You can see it's rotating. So let's go select the T, because you can tell that it's turning. As you can see, I'm using the D-pad right, and the D-pad left turns in the opposite direction, so you can orient it. But there is no 45. So you cannot connect to these 45-degree panels here. So I would not put the hull patches here. I would put them on the 45s, because you can't attach to them on the outside. And you may want to add tubes going to other structures. In fact, you will. It's one of the advantages of these rooms. Let me go back to the one back here, which only has one connection. And as you can see, the panels that you can actually connect tubes to have this gray square in the middle of it. And there would be one here, but there's a tube connected to it. They also correspond to the places where you can put the ladders. So you would put the hull patches on these flat panel here, or windows on this flat panel. But again, remember, windows lower the structure of the base. Let's see if we can take this down. 6.3. Okay, now our structure is 6.3. And remember I said when you add these panels, they add 7 points to the overall structure. So when I remove this structure, or this reinforcement panel, it's actually going to take the base structure down below 0. And bam. Now it's below 0. At time, eventually, it's going to start getting leaks. Oh, see, there it goes. So you're going to get these leaks like this forming. The base will flood at some point. The longer you leave it, the more of these that will appear. And eventually this base is going to fill up with water. And you can repair them with your repair tool, those leaks. However, it will do absolutely no good as long as your base structure, see up there up in the top corner of my screen, I'm negative 0.75. So I'm below 0. If it's below 0, let's see, here's the flooding.
Oxygen production offline.
So the only way to to stop the flooding is to raise the base integrity, either by adding these panels, add bulkheads, or add these platforms out here, the foundations. And then you have to repair many of these leaks before a pump system will automatically come on and empty your base. I don't think I have my repair tool with me. Oh, yes, I do. Forgot I had it. Let's fix some of these guys to show you. So you can repair these all you want, as long as that base integrity figure is below, or 0 or below. You will be chasing your tail with these things. You'll fix one, and one will, another will appear.
Draining systems initiated.
Okay, hear that? See, we fixed enough of the leaks, and now the pumps are going to start pumping the water out of here. As you can see, we're slowly draining the base. So if that occurs to you after you build a new tube or a new room onto your base, what has happened is you have exceeded the structure value of the base. So your only option is either to remove what you just added, add a reinforcement patch, build a foundation, or build a bulkhead to raise the structure back up again. And then repair the leaks. Until you bring the structure up, it's pointless to repair the leaks. Simply make more later. So it'll be ending battle, never-ending battle. You'll never get it fixed. It freaked me out the first time it happened. So there you go. There's your fix for that. So if you got leaks, that's what's going on, and that's how to fix it. So I'm back here real quick because I need agua.
Vital signs stabilizing.
Oh, thank you. I feel much better. Okay, we're 100%. Good to go. Let's flip back over here real quick. Show you our next base building tip. Now, another little tidbit, and I probably should have showed you while I was over near the base. As you can see, I have built some above water, and that observatory lowers the base integrity a lot. So do windows. However, putting windows and negative bearing structures above the water line does not reduce the base integrity. Let me say that again. Remember, this building, when we built it below water, reduced by 1.3. Building it above, like for instance this one and this one, reduced the base integrity of this particular base by 0. It did not reduce it at all, none. Neither do windows, nor this glass room, which you'll unlock eventually. So when you're building your base, and you have the opportunity, like for instance the shallows here, you may want to build shallow. And by building your initial base pretty close to surface level here, that means you can get a couple stories up out of the water fairly easily. You can reach them fairly easily from water level here. And if you want to build even higher, what you do is you'd build a hatch onto a platform, and as you can see, if it's built right at surface level, it still thinks I'm swimming on it, even though I'm not. Kind of bizarre. However, if we go in the hatch and come back out again, it thinks now we're walking. So now I can reach higher, and I could actually add another story up here if I wanted to on this initial base. So consider depth of your base when you're constructing it. Let's look at our build over here. Now these are below water line, right? So if we add solar panels, these, to the tops of these bases, they will work. They absolutely will work. They will not receive 100% sunlight. And the deeper you go, the less efficient the panel is. So it will receive less and less and less sunlight the deeper and deeper and deeper you go. And past like 100 meters, they're almost worthless. Putting it down there. It's such a tiny trickle of sunlight at that point. It doesn't actually charge anything, and you turn anything on the base and it will drain the power immediately, even at full sun. So try to build at a reasonable depth so that your solar panels can be near the surface or above the surface. Once they're above the surface, that is the maximum that they can possibly achieve. So if you were to build this on top of here, you'd want to put your solar panels up here and not down here. It won't make much of a difference at this depth, but hey, every little bit counts. And if you build another one this high, you notice now it's up out of the water, and this is where you'd want to stack all your solar panels, right? So you want to stick that up there. You can also get a platform going. If you can get one, I would have to actually construct this one. That's in my pocket. Anyway, if I didn't have all these other pieces down here, you'd be able to snap a platform off to the side over here. And then you can put solar panels on it there as well. And they don't have to be actually connected to the base that you're powering. I mean, it doesn't have to be a physical connection. You don't actually have to put them directly on the base pieces. So if we built, say, this panel here, see how it's snapped over here? Okay, this is considered part of this base. It's going to let me build up there. We could actually get it above water. So that's not okay. So now we could build a platform here. See, it's not actually physically connected here. If we put solar panels up here, they will actually supply this base with power. So there is no requirement whatsoever to actually place the solar panel right here attached to the base. You can put it on platforms like this, elevated, and it will supply power to the base. That's the power tip. Okay, let's look at getting started here. And one thing to bear in mind long term. I've got the sub parked over here for a reason. It's going to be an experimental base area. Alright, over here, I want to pick a T component because you can tell the orientation of it. It's the only piece that you can tell which direction it's facing. Okay. So, when you place your first component, unfortunately, it is very, very counterintuitive as to what is about to happen. So you would think, okay, I'm going to build here. I want to expand over there. Maybe I want to put my moon pool over here. And maybe I'll put my scan room over there, and I'll extend out over there for a docking bay for my Cyclops, etc. Okay. So you'd throw down your first bay. Oh, yikes. Of course I'm out of space. Oh, that's right, I built those. Built those rooms. Deconstruct those and grab the mats back. That went apart. Let's finish this. Okay, remember we built it facing this direction. Let's build a platform. You can see which way it's going to be oriented. This will affect you later. See this little, this big rectangular area here? That indicates the front. And it's the direction your moon pool is going to face. See that radar? That's the back of the moon pool. And you can see no matter what I do, I'm trying to use the D-pad. It doesn't rotate. You cannot rotate it. So the moon pool, this is the back of the moon pool, this radar. When you dock, your ship is going to be facing this direction, and you will exit in this direction. And you can see this panel indicates the front of your base.
Oxygen.
So it's very kind of counterintuitive. So we'll rip this component apart. So we'll want to lay out our first component. So remember, the front is going to face our left. So now, if we place this component like this, now when we build our foundation, now notice which direction it's facing. You can't rotate it. I'm pressing the D-pad. You can't rotate it either. So you see now this panel is facing that way. So when you build your moon pool, you will probably wish to build it on this side of your base. Because remember, your sub's going to dock like this. It's going to be facing this way. The exit on this side. So you probably want to have this side of the moon pool facing your base. So now once you've got this first orientation locked down, everything else that you build is relative to that initial piece. So you can now build your crosses, Deconstruct that. Replace it with cross. As you can see now, these apart. See, they're still faced the same direction. So, for the remainder of this base, that is now considered the front. But you had to face 90 degrees off so that the front was to your left. That'll get you started. And a way to control which direction the moon pool faces. You lay out your base. You want to be aware of where you're going to be putting your moon pool. So this would be an ideal spot because you can come up in here in the prawn suit.
Warning, emergency power only. Oxygen production offline.
Back to my main base and I'll show you a mistake. Main base over here. And the mistake I made. I didn't know about the orientation. Front. Front. This is the radar. Anything is in the rear. And poor planning. Put the moon pool right over a rock. So it's kind of hard to get the prawn suit in this one. That's why I built a second one over here. And I just lucked out that this tube is just far enough out of the way so I can go up here.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Jump in without any problem. So, make sure you pay attention to your first piece orientation when you build, and then when you lay out your platform, this gray piece here will show you the front. If you can. This is now 3 stories up. I'm above waterline. These windows did not degrade the base integrity whatsoever. Neither did my glass bubble bedroom. So we're supposed to see that. Don't look over there. So you can easily build above the waterline. 0 base integrity problems. It does not, however, help you deal with deep bases. That's why this marker is here. Oh, I totally forgot about the lunch boxes down here. Okay. I set these up. So what I consider bare minimum to build a base, which is one of those squares facing the proper direction with a fabricator and power. So to build the actual base, these are the components you're going to need. This includes one foundation and one cross, and a hatch to get inside, and then for the interior, to build a fabricator. power on top. 2 quarts per, and I consider 2 panels to be a minimum, and of course titanium for each, and the copper for each. So that's what I would consider the minimum. You will need extra titanium for building the structures for spacing and experimentation later, and of course the interior includes that those mats for the interior included 1 storage cabinet. So it'll give you 1 storage and power.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
So now that's my main. And west. I'll take you to underground base. It has absolutely no potential for solar power. No idea what that bang just was. Okay, we're gonna head down into the jelly shroom cave, and just FYI, if you're looking for magnetite, this is where you get it. It's down here. And yes, you can get a prawn suit down here, and yes, you can get a prawn suit back out of this tunnel here. You'll have to, without a boost or the jump jet enhancer, you'll have to land on these pads here, and then you can hop up, and you'll just be able to make that lip right there with your prawn suit. Lights off because we're attracting too much of attention here. Okay. Here's the base. As you notice, I put a beacon above it so I can find it if I need to. Of course, I know where it is. I built this base specifically to support a scanner room to find the magnetite down here. So let's head inside.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
This is a bioreactor, and basically it consumes plant and animal material. And I fed it. I keep us. I collected a whole bunch of fish, and I keep them in a locker here, and then I can keep it full in here. Basically, nothing's going to consume the power in this until, because this space has nothing in it. I mean, there's nothing in it. Not even a fabricator, because I'm not down here to fabricate anything. The only reason this base is here is for the scanner room. So I can come over here and select magnetite and go outside and harvest it. When I turn this room on by clicking the scan button, it will begin to consume power from the reactor. And this reactor is plenty sufficient to supply that room for a very long time. So this is another example of use of this room, and the reason why there's all these panels on here is look at our depth. We're 230 meters down. And the deeper you go, the more base structure you lose for each component. So building another base piece here, panel I can connect to, yeah, right here. That's a 45, shoot. I don't think I can connect to the end, maybe. actually connected to the... Watch the top corner. Okay, 1.1. So at surface level, this reduced only 1. Down here, it's 1.1. And it gets worse the deeper you go. So the deeper you build your base, the more degradation that each component adds, or reduces it. These still supply 7 at this depth. And as fast, in fact, as deep as I've ever been, I've always seen it add 7. So depth doesn't seem to change the reinforcement panel. Just the room pieces, how much they reduce the base structure. So here's a simple, very quick, very easily built, low material base to get started. No solar panels, bioreactor. I think that that basically covers what I wanted to run through the base construction kit and help new folks building bases out. Oh, I totally forgot. Yes. There was one. Yeah. We're heading back home anyway. So let's head back to the base. I wanted to show you two more pieces, base pieces, that again you won't have unlocked initially. However, these are not as hard to find the components for. At least it wasn't for me. I found them fairly easily in all my games. And that's the thermal plant. And the power transmitter. Not too far from your pod starting place is a thermal vent. Oh geez, I hit little buddy. Oh man, he's okay. And that's what this bizarre white, bluish, glowy line is. That's the power conductors. And down here, let's turn our lights back on. Wait for it to load. This is a thermal vent. It doesn't hurt your subs, but you can see the temperature out here will hurt you. It's 70 C. And as you can see here, we've got 73 C on these, and depending on where you actually place them, the higher that bar gets, the hotter it is. The hotter it is, the more power each one of these produce. And we build a power conductor, a power transmitter here, and then when you have to build it in the order that you want it to move power. So we build one here first. It draws power from all of these thermal vents. And then we built the next one up here. And it pulls power from that. And then we built the next one. And they go very, very far. Oopsie, just a scratch. Build the next one here, and again it pulled power from the last one, so we're creating a chain. And head over here for the last one. Yes. Stop griping. The last one here, and it's close enough to then transmit the power to the closest base structure, and then it supplies power to this base. So not only do I have solar panels in this base, I also have those thermal vents supplying power to this base as well, which means I have power even at night here. exit to the left thing, and wish I'd known about that when I built the base and put the moon pools on this side over here. So as you can see, we have like 1950 power in this base, which is plenty to do their construction. Remember, it's going to charge our subs in moon pool. In this case, multiple moon pools. And that takes power.
Vital signs stabilizing.
Oh, I feel much better. There we go. Another melon here. And we're pretty close to doing. I'm going to go the third one. Top everything off. Oops. And that's why I keep a locker, because sometimes I forget to whack one of the melons. So I don't have seeds to plant. Okay, so, and then I have a power cell charger, battery charger. I've got the fabricator running in here. I have a water filtration plant, and this sucker eats power pretty seriously. Oops, wrong way. See, I told you I get lost in my own base. I have scanner room, and of course this eats power when I turn it on for scanning. So that's why I augment the solar with those thermal. Oh cripes! What's the actual name? Thermal plant. So since it's an external structure, that's this guy right here, and it requires magnetite and aerogel. Initially is hard as heck to come by, and what you need to look for in your deep diving trips is these guys right here, these gel sacks. When you bring these back home, you can strike them each one twice with your knife. The third time will destroy it. So once you've got a crop of them here, you can easily strike it once and pick it. Strike it once and pick it. And that gives you seeds to plant back. So basically you have infinite supply, as long as you've got this grow bed. And that's what that and a ruby. Now the first time when you pick the gel sack up in the field, actually pick up the gel sack. That will then unlock the aerogel for you. Picking up the seed will not unlock it, so you actually have to pick up the gel sack, and then it will give you the aerogel the first time you pick up a gel sack. You can bring the gel sack back, stick it in your grow bed, and just put it in here, and then whack it with your knife, and then you can whack it 3 times and get 3 seeds, destroying the gel sack. But then you have 3 seeds to plant, so grow 3 of them, and then you can populate your whole plant with that. I've also got a backup bioreactor here. Yes, there is in-game poo. It's not that great, to be honest with you, as far as source. If you're going to fuel your bioreactor early in the game, these guys right here, I mean, they're available right here in the shallows. I mean, all these mushrooms are freaking anywhere. Strike it with your knife, you'll get seeds, 4 seeds. They will supply you that bioreactor when you pick them up, the mushroom itself. It only consumes 1 spot, and provides a great deal of energy for your bioreactor. So once you get the bioreactor, you don't. The next step up would be the gel sack, and I use them for the bioreactor. They provide more energy than the mushrooms. However, early in the game, mushrooms are easy peasy because they're literally right outside your front door to get started with. So you don't actually need a grow bed initially, but at some point you'll want a grow bed because you keep picking them. They don't grow back down here. I mean, you pick all these and they're all gone. They don't grow back. They do grow in the grow beds once you get them. And then the last tip before I go, relative to base, is these vines. Well, if you take them with you, when you build remote bases, you can throw down a grow bed, throw the vines down, let them grow, and you'll get your ingredients for building things at your remote base. However, if you build your foundation, like I did here, shallow, and you plant those vines out here, they will not, repeat, not reach full height and produce. So they'll just be short vines. So you'll only be able to whack the leaves for making the fibers. So that's why there is a second platform much deeper here off the side of the base here so that they can grow to full height. So you need the depth down at the bottom here. So what is this? Roughly 10 meters. So you need to build your platform roughly 10 meters below the surface, give or take. You might be able to get away with 9 or 8. I'm not really sure the exact height, but 10's a nice round number to look for, and that will guarantee you will get full height on these and the blood kelp as well. I think the blood kelp will only require 8 feet, I think, or 8 meters, I think, to get the full height and put on the blood sacks for you. All right, well that's I think that's a wrap for this stream. I'm gonna go tear down that test base after the stream's over here, and I hope you enjoyed the tips and information, and I hope you find them useful in building your first bases. Thank you very much for watching.